Hello and welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims. These are the top diabetes stories and headlines happening now. In the News is brought to you by Edgepark. Simplify your diabetes journey with Edgepark. Our top story this week, the next step in GLP-1 research is focusing on oral medications. New study looking at two different versions, danuglipron and orforglipron. Preliminary findings show both were effective in weight reduction and glycemic control in people with type 1 diabetes, obesity, or both. People with type 2 diabetes saw a significant reduction in A1Cs, and they saw significant weight reduction. Interesting to note that danuglipron is a twice-daily pill. Pfizer is developing that one. Orforglipron is once daily from Lilly. They were both about the same in that they did not increase the odds of serious adverse reactions or hypoglycemia. The odds of adverse gastrointestinal events were also about the same. As you can imagine, with the success of Ozempic and Mounjaro injectables, these companies are really champing at the bit to get these oral medications approved, but the researchers say further longitudinal studies are required. More news about Tzield to slow type 1 progression in newly diagnosed kids and adolescents. Data from the phase 3 PROTECT clinical trial was presented this week, showing superior beta cell preservation compared to placebo. Tzield, which was called teplizumab in trials, is the first and only disease-modifying therapy for type 1 diabetes. An observational extension study will follow participants for a further 42 months. It's worth noting that Prevention Bio is the company that developed it, and it was purchased earlier this year by Sanofi. A lot of speculation about what the growing popularity of new diabetes drugs will do to the device market. Abbott, makers of the Freestyle Libre, says they're doing just fine and that treatments could end up boosting sales. Shares have dropped, though, with concerns that drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro could hurt CGM sales. Abbott says no, their sales are actually up this year. Grain of salt, because this is press release information. But it's worth noting, of course, that the diabetes device market is very important to people who use pump systems, and most diabetes device analysts do seem to agree with Abbott here. Could a 10-second smartphone voice recording diagnose type 2? Biotech firm Click Labs is testing this. They did a study on 267 people who had already been diagnosed as either non-diabetic or as having type 2. Everybody was asked to record a specific spoken phrase on their own smartphone through an app up to 6 times a day for 2 weeks. These recordings were about 6 to 10 seconds long. Things like pitch and intensity differed in a consistent manner between the people with diabetes and those without. They were picked up not by humans, but by the signal processing software. With the theory that developing type 2 can cause subtle changes in your voice, they then created an AI-based program that analyzed voice recordings along with patient information like age, sex, height, and weight. That program proved to be 89% accurate at identifying type 2 in women and 86% accurate in men. A long way to go here with this really interesting technology, but a fasting blood glucose test, these researchers say, is 85% accurate, so not a long way to go there. Ultrasound may prove to be a new treatment for type 2 diabetes. GE Healthcare Technologies is teaming up with Novo Nordisk on peripheral-focused ultrasound. The hope here is that this technology could regulate metabolic function without medication. Early-stage clinical research suggests that this type of ultrasound can affect diabetes patients' metabolism by stimulating nerve pathways. New research on diet and type 1, looking at plant-based and moderate carb diets. There is a lot here, so I will link up the full results. The upshot here is that all of these diets, and there was portion control, moderate carb, and vegan, all worked very well when there was a dietitian helping you make choices, right? Very individualized. The vegan diet I found particularly interesting in this study. It was far from low carb. Some people actually ate a lot more carbs than usual, up to 300 carbs a day. The fat levels were very low. As a result, this group's insulin sensitivity went way up, and they lost about 11 pounds on average. They were the only group with a weight loss and insulin sensitivity change like that. The A1C decrease was about the same in all of the groups. These researchers say it is important to have different types of diet to fit in with different individuals. Improving health insurance coverage is not enough to address existing racial and ethnic disparities. in glycemic control among U.S. adults with diabetes. Large study by Columbia University Irving Medical Center suggesting that Hispanic or Latino and non-Hispanic Black Americans more likely to have poor glycemic control relative to their non-Hispanic white counterparts, despite access to care. Investigators say social, healthcare, and behavioral or health factors did little to change this disparity. They say future studies need to evaluate the role of structural barriers and develop effective interventions. Right back to the news in just a moment, but first, Diabetes Connections is brought to you by Edgepark. Take control of your diabetes with a broad range of diabetes management supplies from Edgepark. The latest diabetes supplies and continuous glucose monitors from top brands simplify blood sugar management. Edgepark accepts most insurance plans, and Medicare Advantage cover certain devices. Plus, Edgepark takes care of the insurance paperwork to make ordering as seamless as possible. Go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Edgepark logo to learn more about Edgepark's diabetes supplies and CGM devices. A scientist who helped discover insulin a century ago has been honored with a memorial in his home city in Aberdeen, Scotland. John J.R. MacLeod was awarded the Nobel Prize for his part in the amazingly groundbreaking project, but his achievements stay largely unknown. He's not really talked about as much as Banting and Best, but MacLeod has been celebrated in his home city with the unveiling of a new life-size bronze sculpture. And finally, if you watch the Food Network's Halloween Cookie Challenge, you can root for the diabetes mom. Chelsea Fulmer's son lives with type 1. The Food Network says she is a mother, entrepreneur, and passionate baker with her own Central Texas baking business, Pink Lemon Cookies. Tune in Monday evening to see that. And speaking of Halloween, I get so many questions about this from parents. If you go to diabetes-connections.com and you go to the shop tab, I'm going to have to change that tab. We have a lot of free downloads there, and one of them is all about more fun and less stress around Halloween. I did a whole chapter on this in my latest book, in Still the World's Worst Diabetes Mom, and the whole chapter is there for you for free. So it says shop, but you don't have to spend any money. On the podcast next week, I am talking to Ryan Reed. He is a former NASCAR Xfinity driver. He hasn't been behind the wheel at NASCAR in 5 years, and he got the chance to race. And we will talk about why, what led to that, what is next for him. He lives with type 1. He was diagnosed at 17, just when he was kicking off his pro career. I'm really excited to bring you that episode and tell you what he's been up to. Our last long-format interview episode was about Dexcom, Dexcom's program for college athletes. And we talked about what it takes to be a student athlete with type 1 diabetes with Tristan Wakefield. He is a rower for Syracuse University. Yeah, when you give me a list of college students to pick from, chances are good I'm going to go with my alma mater, all other things being equal. So it was great to talk to him. Thank you so much for joining me for In the News. If you like it, please share it. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here soon.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.